Hey, welcome back, everybody. Joe Marion here again. Our next speaker is going to be Andreas Noble from TCO Certified.
Hi.
Hey, Andreas. How you doing, man? We're developing a really good friendship. Every time I get to talk to Andreas, it's more and more fun. So, man, thank you. Just a great person, a great smile,
Yeah, thank you
and a
for
great
having me.
company. Guy, as I mentioned earlier today, organizations are more engaged than ever in implementing sustainable practices in all aspects of their business. They also expect the same commitment from their vendors and their suppliers of IT products, meaning those products should be environmentally preferable as well as manufactured under socially responsible conditions.
Yep.
As resellers, we have a role to play in driving IT in a more sustainable direction. With that, Andreas, let me turn it over to you and you can explain a little bit about what TCO is and what you do, please.
Yeah, thank you. All right, next slide. And we can take one more. That's perfect. There we go. So my name is Andreas Nobel. I've been working with sustainability for soon 11 years. I still look young, I hope. People start to ask me like, oh, how old are you really? I'm in my 30s, by the way. So I'm working for a company called TCO Development that is behind the certification TCO Certified, which is a global sustainability certification. Up until now, we have only been focusing on the new products, newly produced products. So maybe that's why you haven't heard so much about us if you don't know who we are. But we've been in the business for soon 30 years, and we are set up as a not-for-profit. So we do not have any shareholders that take out any money. We live solely on the certification fees that the companies who certify their products pay to certify. Our whole ambition is to work towards a more sustainable life cycle for electronics, and that's why I'm here. I think it's super interesting to hear what you are doing in the refurbishment and resale market, and this is something we want to promote going forward. So what is it to be a sustainability certification? For us, it is when you are a complete certification, meaning that you both take the social aspects but also the environmental aspects into account when you design the criteria that goes into the certification. So as of today, we do have criteria on responsibly sourced minerals. We have criteria on the conditions in the factories for those who are producing the products, but we also have criteria for example, hazardous chemicals, making sure that everyone is protected that do handle these types of chemicals during the production phase. When we go into the environmental responsibility side of things, we look a lot at prolonging the use time, the lifetime of products, being it, putting great batteries inside of the products that will work for a longer period of time, making sure that you can drop the products based on certain standards, but a lot of other criteria as well. So today we have 11 different product categories that we include in the certification. So it's usually business IT products that you find inside of the office, but since 2019, we expanded into the data center sphere. So now we're also offering for servers, networking equipment, and storage solutions. And we actually got the first servers certified by HPE just a couple of weeks ago. So things are starting to move there as well. But to stay up to date, we try to update, or we do update our criteria every 3 years. We do not just try, but we actually do. We update our criteria every 3 years, and we think this is extremely important to move at an even pace with the industry, since they are moving extremely fast. To make sure that we are a quality certification, we are a type 1, meaning that we need to abide by certain rules. You are free to look them up. I will not bore you with everything that's inside of that standard, but on top of that, we're also a member of the Global Eco-Labeling Network, which is a consortium of the top tier eco-labels out there. So we can move to the next slide, which I think is more interesting for you. So what's in it for you? Why am I here? Why am I speaking to you? So there are three different things that we are looking into, and I'll go through them one by one because I don't have a lot of time, so I will speed it up a little bit, and then you can ask me questions afterwards. So the first one is that we have a lot of interaction with the purchasers. The purchasers are the ones that are driving TCO certified and driving the ask for TCO certified, and that's why the big brand owners like Samsung, LG, HP, the Dells of the world certified their products. And something that they are telling us is that they want to find something, a standard that they can use in their tenders for refurbished products. And as of today, it's hard for them to do so. And what they are looking for that we want to help develop is to know what is a grade A product, what is a grade B product, a C product, etc. And how do they know that if they buy from company X, Y, or Z, and they buy a class B product, that they get the same class B product from all three different vendors. So this is where we think we can come into the picture as a separate party that's not for profit, that can help promote this type of quality standard in your business, in your industry. So this is something we want to look into together with you to see what this could be, what it could look like, what should be included, what should not be included, and how the verification structure should look like to become a certified refurbisher, so to speak. So that's the first thing that we are really interested in developing together with you. The second thing is something we are including now with our latest generation of TCO certified that's about to be released in 11 days or something, 1st of June. This is something we call the sustainability performance indicators, which is something completely new. So before we only had hard mandates, it was either pass or fail for the whole criteria document. We still will have that, but on top of this, we are adding the so-called SPIs, the sustainability performance indicators. And these are measurements that will allow us to verify things that goes beyond the scope of TCO certified. And one such thing could be, I had a lot of discussions with Joe about this before, and talked about some problems that reman businesses are facing, such as, the limitation of reuse through, these call to home functions that are being implemented, or, you aren't able to swap out certain components inside of a computer because it then locks you out of it. These are things that we can start tracking and verifying when we do certify the new products, which can help drive the industry in a more sustainable direction, so they start allowing reuse. Because what we will do with the SPIs is grade the products. So, for example, if a company would allow the end user, the second-hand user, to change out components without locking the product down, we would give them some sort of incentive of doing so. We would give them a higher classification. And this, the initial buyers would see, and then they would start ask for this. And thus we can help your industry, even though we're certifying new products. So this is also something we are really looking forward to have discussions with you. What different types of hurdles are you seeing inside of your business that we could potentially help solving with our certification? The third thing then is that we have a very long roadmap planned ahead of us up until 2030. We have big goals that we want to achieve, and one of these goals is to create a sort of an accepted list of refurbishers, remanufacturers, and recycles, and we want to help drive business towards those that are doing more in terms of corporate social responsibility, environmental, social sustainability. Here's also very good grounds for having discussions. What should be, the baseline to become a so-called accepted refurbisher or remanufacturer? Should it be, you have the R2 version 3, or should it be that you're e-stewards or something completely different? What we're doing now with Generation 9 is that we're starting to collect what different recyclers, remanufacturers that the different brand owners are currently using on a global scale. So we will collect this data, but in 3 years' time, we will update our criteria, and then we will be able to launch this new concept with minimum requirements on the brand owners that are to certify their products. And that could potentially be, them accepting third-party refurbishers or whatever. We don't know, but that's why I'm here. I want to find out what this should be and how it should look like in the future. So these are, my 3 talking points that I want to discuss with you.
Great. Super.
So thank you, and thank you for inviting me, Joe.
Andreas, it's an honor. Folks, let me explain something. Andreas is here. He's not selling products to you. He's really here to gather information from us. His customer base is the manufacturers, and what's interesting is the manufacturers come to him. The manufacturers want a TCO certification. Andreas, let me ask you a question. Explain the history of TCO, where the old cathode tube, and where you guys came from, and why the manufacturers even need TCO certification.
Yeah, good question. So it all started back in 1992. It started in a union here in Sweden, actually. They wanted good products for their office workers, white-collar workers. So internally in this union, they set up a small sub company called TCO Development, looking at, okay, how can we buy good products for our workers? And then they started, coming up with certain criteria that would protect the workers' eyes when they were in front of, the old big CRT monitors. And this type of work, started to spread first to Germany and then across Europe, because others saw, okay, this became a quality standard for CRT monitors. And soon, Japanese people and Chinese people were lining up outside of our main office in Stockholm saying, hey, we want to certify our products because we need to sell our products. And now everyone is asking for this label, because back then it was a label. And then, they saw, okay, this is becoming so much bigger than just for the union. So they decided, okay, we need to make this into a separate company, but it's still fully owned by the union, the umbrella corporation TCO. So that is the quick history. So why are brand owners now still certifying their products? Well, it is because purchasers, large purchasing organizations like municipalities, armies, banks, etc., they need to make sure that they are fulfilling socially responsible criteria in the manufacturing phase to minimize their risk when they are procuring products, but also for the environmental side of things. That's also why they're asking for TCO certified, because that's where we started. So they are actually the ones driving the demand for certifying products, the purchasers. Mm-hmm. So it's the you and me's in the large organizations that are driving, that are making the brand owners certify their products. Without them, there wouldn't be any TCO certified. I can assure you that, because it costs a lot of money to raise the salaries, make sure that the working conditions are okay in the factories, that they are well protected, the workers, that they don't work too much overtime, etc., etc., etc. This is not a small investment. I can assure you that. And how then? I think a lot of you are thinking, okay, but there's so many different certifications out there. How can we trust the certification? So the way we have set it up is that we only use third parties to verify all the criteria in TCO certified. We are not, a self-declaration certification scheme where the companies can come and say, yeah, we tick off all the boxes, and then they turn in a paper. It's not like that. So all the products that are certified have been tested in a laboratory, and as of today, our laboratories are in Taiwan, China, and Japan, because that's where most of the manufacturing takes place. So it's just because of that, and they are these big test houses like the TUV Rhineland, the Intertex, and the Nemcos of the world, and they, all they live off is trust. They test products, and they do it, for the CE mark if you want to sell products in Europe, if you want to test out chemicals, etc., etc., etc. That's their bread and butter, basically. So they have a lot at stake. And on top of this, because of course, they can be bribed. So what we have implemented is a system on top of this, which we call a round robin system. So we purchase products off the shelf that we look. First off, we look at our data to see, okay, these products are, very close to not making it. Then we go out and buy these products off the shelf to make sure we're not, handed a golden sample. we send them, or we take them with us to the test laboratories, test them at each one to make sure that all of them are doing it in the correct way. And then we compare all the test data between the laboratories to see that they are doing things in a correct way. And then we use our own test facility back home here in Sweden to make sure that we're getting the same results. And by doing this on a biannual basis, we can assure that the quality is high inside of our system.
That's cool. We have one question, but I'm going to clarify the question. Somebody asked, "Is there a list of TCO certified companies on your website?" Folks, TCO, don't think of it as them certifying companies. They certify products. So they're not going to list companies, but let me rephrase the question. But do you have a list of certified products on your?
Yeah, I just posted a link in the chat. So if you go to our product finder, you will see different product categories. Some of the product categories are empty as of today, like the smartphone one, because there's a lot of things going on in the smartphone world, which makes it extremely hard to certify products, but also a lot of lobbying going on in the smartphone world against certifications, believe it or not. But if you go into, the notebook section, the display section, you will find a lot of products, or the desktop section, you will find a lot of products. So looking at the world, we certify about half of the world's displays. I think like 20-25% of the notebooks or something like that. So that's like our reach as of today.
Questions about your certification of refurbishers. What criteria might be available? You mentioned, maybe DISA or eSteward or R2s, but what other kind of criteria might be evaluated for refurbishers?
Yeah, so what we would be looking at would, of course, be, social responsible remanufacturing. It would be not manufacturing. So that would mean, maybe it could be salaries, living wages. It could be working hours, not excessive working hours. Have a cap of 60 hours a week. Okay. It's a lot. But if you're looking at Asia, 60 hours is nothing. It can go way beyond that. But it could also be protective, personal protective equipment during the handling of products. As some of you mentioned before, data secure erasure, all these types of things would go into this type of certification. But then we would look at certifying the companies, but not the products, because as we've understand it, there's so many different models that come through you that aren't certified as of today. So it would be hard for us, certify something that's already been produced, and we don't know the conditions for these products, how they were in the beginning. So then it would be hard for us to put our logo on these products. So what we're looking at is to certify the companies to make sure that they have good standards and they are doing good things and they are not exporting things overseas that ends up in landfill, etc., etc., etc. So this is the type of discussions I really want to have with your members to see what should be the baseline. Should there be different levels? I don't know. I mean, this is something I want to find out together with you.
Well, let me give you an example of why I would never be certified. Many years ago, I used to own a refurbishing company many years ago. And we used to take the old IBM products that came back, and we would soak them in this liquid called trichloroethylene. I don't even know if they sell it anymore. But we'd have technicians taking trichloroethylene without gloves on, dumping products in, and that stuff has got to be horrible for your health.
Yeah, of course.
I'm probably going to get sued now for 30 years ago. But anyway, so I said, so those are the kind of things you might look at and say, that company would not be certified. They're endangering their employees.
Exactly. So that's what we're doing as of today with the manufacturing of products. We're looking at process chemicals, for example, with Generation 9. So we're using a system called an accepted substance list, where all the substances being used need to be pre-assessed instead of, going with a banned list saying you can't use these ones. We turned it over and said, you need to pre-assess all the things that you are using to see if they are cancerogenic, if they are endocrine disruptive, etc., etc., etc. So we know what we're actually using, not just know what we're not using, because that doesn't solve anything.
Yep, that makes total sense. Another a question on your grading, the A, B, C standards. And by the way, Andres, you're not the only ones. We've heard from a couple different organizations that seem to be putting together grading standards. But could you drill down on what you're thinking about your grading standards?
Yeah, so first of all, if someone is doing something really good that you already are looking at, we don't want to reinvent the wheel. We would be happy to harmonize with other, initiatives or other companies that are doing this. But what we would be looking at would be like, from a purchaser perspective, what they're looking at is, okay, a Class A product should be as new. It shouldn't have any scratches. The battery should be, brand new. There shouldn't be cracks, etc., etc., etc. It should be like a new product. And then, then it would be to agree upon with the big purchasing organizations. What should a Class B product be? What is acceptable for Class B? And then go down the line, Class C, D, E, etc., to really make sure that they understand what they want and what they understand what they're getting as well. And have that discussion together with you, because you are the ones that sits on the experience of, okay, what types of products does actually come into you that you do refurbish, and how far can you do the refurbishment? How can you move a product from scrap to new, or what's the nuance for different product categories? Maybe for a server there would be a completely different spec for Class A to C. No one might care about scratches on the chassis, but for a smartphone, it's a completely different story.
Yep.
That would be the Class A, B, C, D thing.
Yep. And I think that as you start to certify company or grade products and certify companies, you're going to find your answers to some of your SPI questions too. For example, if I'm in the business of refurbishing iPhones and I can't get the Apple glass, to refurbish the iPhone, I can't make it. I can't turn it into a grade A. All I can ever do is grade B. So I think maybe that's a problem that Apple might have, and that's just an example.
And this is something that we could add to our SPI chapter to see, okay, are you as a manufacturing offering original spare parts to third-party remanufacturers, and then you would have all the ifs and buts, the price range, etc. But that's the defined details. But this could be something that we could help drive with our certification for new products, to give these companies that are trying to push back on refurbishment, right to repair, give them lower scores, and those that are doing more in this space, give them better scores, because this is what the purchasers are looking at. They want more different performance indicators to look at when they are procuring new products, because they want to be a part of this story, of the remanufacturing story in the beginning.
Yep. One last question, we have a few more minutes actually, but tell us about TCO and your involvement with the Swedish government. You're somewhat funded, I believe. Is that correct? By the Swedish government?
No, so we're 100% funded by the certification fees. So if all the brand owners were to say no, we're going to stop certifying our products, we would disappear. So we're totally dependent on that. We don't get any external funding. However, we do partake in a lot of different research projects that are funded by the Swedish innovation agency, Vinnova. And one of these that I think might be super interesting for your members is called Keep Electronics. I think it's keepelectronics.com. I'll post a link in the chat here. So what this research project is looking at is to create a product passport, which is talked a lot about in the new Green Deal for the European Union. And the KEEP project is actually inside of this overarching project on the European level. So what they're looking at is to create a product passport where you will be able to share information in between different stakeholders along the supply chain, being you as a remanufacturer, a component manufacturer of a hard drive, a mineral excavator, or the final assembly company like the Dells of the world, but to find a standardized way of sharing knowledge and information. And this is something that will come. And here you have a good opportunity to be part of what should be inside of this product passport, and what type of data would be interesting for you to receive, but also to give away.
Mm-hmm. I'll tell you, it's really nice to see. It's funny, all around the world. We saw it in South America. We see it in Europe, and now we're seeing it come to fruition in the United States. People are starting to look at the environmental impacts of the products we're selling. And what is really kind of remarkable about TCO's journey is you started by looking at the contents of products, and now you're really looking at the contents of some of these manufacturers' hearts.
Yeah.
Are they really green? So we applaud you for that, and really ASCDI is looking forward to working with you in any way we can to kind of move that ball forward.
Sounds awesome. I'm really looking forward.
Great. Well, thank you. One last thing, and then I will let you go. The audience, I want you guys to hear this too. ASCDI has been involved with a blockchain project with the group called Obata, and that ties in very nicely, I think, to some of the things Andreas has been talking about. The blockchain project's going to, when it kicks off, allow us to track products. Who last touched the product, who refurbished the product, who put what inside to the product, who wiped the data, from the disk drives, those kind of things. So we've been spending the last several years looking at this blockchain as a possible solution for tracking these products.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yep. And I think Keep is doing something very similar with that.
Yeah, and you're participating now in Keep as well. So yes. I think there will be great, ways to work together in the future with these two projects. Yeah.
Andreas, thank you. Thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for what's getting to be a great friendship. I love talking to you each time. Folks, our next session is going to start in 4 minutes. It's going to be, hang on, let me just call it up here, Tess and Procuri. So take the next 4 minutes, 3 minutes now, grab some coffee, do a bathroom break, and we'll see you back here on the top of the hour. Andreas, thank you. Have a good rest of the day.
You too.
Bye-bye.